before I launch in and show you how to use Nearpod, I want to take a step back and just kind of lay out some learning targets for this next clip. I've taken the ISTE teacher standard here, in this case ISTE Teacher Standard 2A, and I've turned it into an I can statement. I'll go ahead and read that to yourself. The one word I want to highlight in this learning target is this word relevant. And a lot of times, I've seen teachers kind of get in this trap of using technology just for the sake of using technology, and there isn't really any other purpose in the learning process other than just to say I use technology. And so I think that word relevant is key in using this technology in a meaningful way that enhances that learning again and takes students to a deeper level. The other one too here, this one is the ISTE standards for students, 1B. Go ahead and read that. And again, this isn't necessarily the teacher doing this, but you are facilitating the students doing this work. And so keep that in mind too as we go forward. The teacher's not doing this, but you are giving the students the opportunity to do this work. So let's move on here, and I've got a clip that shows what Nearpod is all about. Okay, I'm going to show you here how to run a live lesson and give you a little demo of the different features in Nearpod. This screen right here, this window is going to be the teacher view, and over here this screen will be the student view, and so you get an idea of what the students and teachers will see as they go through these lessons. So I'm going to open up my demo here. Select live lesson. And it's going to give the teacher, it's going to give them an access code. Now this I can just post on my board, or I can share it out with Google Classroom if I wish. I'm using that. Now in the student view, if you're using Chromebooks, they'll see a page like this, nearpod.com, or an iPad app. Someplace you're going to enter a join a session code. And so the students just enter that in here. And then the student is prompted to join the session. They can add their name, hit send. Okay. Now in my teacher view, I can see here, okay, I've got different names popping up right here. And now the teacher is in the driver's seat, if you will, and they're going to start this presentation. Right now the students can't do anything on their screen except leave the session, and you'll get a notice if they do that. But if the teacher goes and clicks on this button right there, you can see that my first slide appears on the student screen, and then I can continue on progressing through here. So again, this is an open-ended question. Right here, the student would see what would cause that, and the student now would answer if this is a good answer, or for whatever reason the teacher wants to share that out with the class. Again, this is the teacher view. The kids can't see this, but this answer right here is really good to share. So I hit the share button. And you can see on the student screen now that answer is pushed back to everybody. So now all the students can see that answer. But again, they don't see the name. And so there's a privacy piece there if you want to do that. You can have, so here you go. Pull it back, hit unshare on the teacher side, and it brings us back to the presentation. When I progress through, again, here's some more pictures. Okay, this one is a multiple choice question. Again, the teacher sees the student list, okay, and I can choose my answer as a student and send that in there. Give it a sec to load here. There it comes, and you can see here, gives you a little pie chart, 100%, just one student. Chose A. You can see again here that the student chose answer A. Keep moving through here now. I'll do a math problem. So now here is a picture. I just loaded up a picture of this number, 743. And it's asking to write the number in expanded form. Now, on a computer, the kids would use their mouse, okay, and write out the number, or on an iPad. I think this feature is a little bit easier on an iPad because they can just use their finger, or a stylus, but here they are asked to draw out this number in expanded form. Okay. A couple options: they can highlight something if they need to. If they want to add some text, they can add a text box. If they want to drop in their own picture, if they've got a picture on their iPad camera roll, they can insert that as well. And then the eraser, if you want to erase something, you can erase, add that back in. There you go. And when they're ready, again, they can go ahead and send it into the teacher. Takes a minute to load up, but then the teacher should see that answer populate. Here it comes. There it is. So now the teacher can click on the individual student and see. And again, if there's multiple students, the teacher can kind of slide through there. Again, too, this is a good example you want to share. Go ahead and click share, and it gets pushed back to all the students. They can review that, pull it back, and you can continue on your presentation. Okay. This one here, this one is again, multiple choice, correct, incorrect. The previous one was a poll more so than a multiple choice, correct, incorrect. I've set this up so that the correct answer will show as green. So again, this number in expanded form, I'm going to head and select, let's choose this one here. Let's see what happens. Okay. And right away I can see that this student chose A. That is incorrect, and it gives me that little, again, that little pie chart there showing the answers, and you can get, you know, a quick idea of the students and the class's understanding of that question. Let's keep going here. This is another cool feature too. These are the field trip tabs that you'll see later on. This is kind of a new feature with Nearpod, but they've preloaded some different 360-degree virtual reality pictures, and so this is looking up at Mount Everest, and I'm going to go to the student side now. On a computer, they would click and drag, and they can see, they can get a full 360-degree view of this area. So pretty cool. With iPads or mobile devices, all I have to do is move the device around and their seats, and they can see these views as well. Teacher can kind of, same thing on the teacher side too. So kind of a cool activity, a new feature with Nearpod, but I'll show you how to add those in later. Okay, I'm going to show you how to build a free version of a Nearpod presentation, and you'll see as we start building this out, there'll be a couple options that will that are only available in the premium version. But I'm going to start in the Create tab, and here you can see I've got my blank starting point. I'm going to name it real quick. And to start, I'm just going to add a slide. Okay. Add content. These little beta tabs, if you click through those are still in kind of testing phase, and so they might not be fully functional, but you can go ahead and play around with those. But I'm going to choose a slide right here, and here I can just add my slides, just like you would do on a PowerPoint. You can add images or audio as well, and then I'm going to save that, and then there's that slide. Okay, I'm going to add another slide here and show you some other things. Add web content, that's going to be the premium version. So if you want to upgrade, that's a cool one where you can insert websites and control the students' access to those websites. If you go to add activity now, this is where a lot of that cool stuff is. This stuff all is free except for the memory test. That's a premium tool. Let's add an open-ended question. So I can add a question there. If I want to add a reference image in there too, I can do that. And that would put that picture alongside of that question. Okay, I'm going to save that. Okay, so there's the open-ended question slide. Let's add another one here. I'm going to add another, let's do a quiz. So I'm going to choose that as the correct answer. 2 answers, you want to keep adding answers to that, or if you want to add more questions, you can have several quiz questions within one quiz. Again, add a picture. I'm going to add another question to this too. Add an answer here. Choose as the correct answer. Okay. And when I save that, that's added right there. And when you set up that correct answer, it's going to auto grade it right away. And you remember from that demo video, it's going to give you that graph with all the cool information. But here, now I've got a couple slides in place. Let's say I want to move these around. I can simply just click and drag and move that there. I want to put this over here. You can drag and drop that as you need to. All right, this next clip is going to show a few more features, things you can add. Again, you're going to find a lot of these items require the subscription, but there's a lot of cool things you can do without purchasing the subscription as well. So one thing I'm going to show you, if you go to add content, this Nearpod 3D, again, it's in beta version, so it's still kind of being tested out. But if you click on it, it has some really cool three-dimensional things the kids can look at. And so, for example, let's take this locust critter right here. Let's do a preview. And you can see as I click and drag, you can kind of see that three-dimension view of that little critter. So something cool you can insert. I'm going to drop that into my slideshow. And then there it is. So when the kids get it, they'll have access and they can manipulate and move around. Another feature you can add into this, if you go to add content, and then this little arrow is going to slide you over again. These items over here are premium features, but if you choose slideshow, I'm going to you can search for images right there, but I'm going to grab a couple that I've downloaded already. They're on my desktop, and here they are. I'm going to choose these 3 pictures, open them up. Okay, and now I've got a slideshow, and so when I click on this, you can see I've got the 3 videos there, and the students will be able to, during the presentation, they can be able to slide through those different pictures that you've set up there. The other thing I'm going to show you how to do is to insert one of those drawing slides, and so if I go to add slide here, add activity, and this draw it button right here is what you're going to select. One thing you can do if you just write some instructions right here, we'll have a blank canvas, but I'm going to add a little bit more to it. I'm going to say circle the atomic mass of this element, and then drag in an image that I have already saved. When I save that now, picture, and now I can just preview what that slide is going to look like by pressing this button right here. Again, the students are going to see that picture, and then they will be able to, as needed, they can circle the atomic mass of that element. So change colors and do all sorts of fun things that they want to do with it. So and they would submit that so you can see what that would look like. Okay, when you're all done with your slideshow, hit save and exit, and it's going to drop it into your Nearpod library, and you can see mine is right down here at the bottom. 2 options that you have now when you are pushing this out to the kids. If you do a live lesson like I showed you before, if you click on that, that will give you this access code. And so again, the students would just go to nearpod.com and they would join there. You can push it out through Classroom as well. Enter that code, and then they would be in the live session. I'm going to go back one more here too. I'm going to leave that session. Okay. The student paste feature, this is a great tool. If students are gone, they can access this from home, or if they need to go back and redo something. This allows them to go back through that presentation at their own pace, but again, it is a premium feature. All right, so to wrap up, as you build out your projects, you'll see them in your library. Another cool thing you can do with Nearpod, you're in my library now. If you go to the Explore tab, there are several free lessons that you can access that have been made by teachers already. You can search by content area there, or you can just kind of scroll through and see what they have. Some of them you do have to pay for. Some of these VR, virtual reality ones are pretty cool, but some of them, again, there's a cost involved with that. You can also just search for different items as well. Then you can download those into your library and use with your classes. So from here, the next steps, you're going to actually start building out your own Nearpod lessons, and we'll go from there. All right, after watching that clip, you probably have some ideas. As you start building projects out, a couple things to keep in mind. Nearpod is a great first step tool. I know that a lot of people have slideshow presentations that they use year after year, and I think Nearpod is a great kind of stepping stone into technology and just kind of really enhancing stuff that you already have, not necessarily replacing it, just again, it's that enhanced piece that we're looking at. It's also much more engaging than just a traditional students sitting in the rows looking up at the board back and forth to their notebook. That adds a little bit more engagement than that traditional model. Another thing that I encourage, again, blending that old traditional work with kind of the newer stuff, taking that Nearpod presentation and still have the kids write in their notebook or a graphic organizer, however you guys do notes. Again, have the students do that. I know there's research out there that says that handwriting actually increases retention and supports students memorizing and learning that material better than just looking at it on a board. So I encourage students to be handwriting as they're taking notes with the Nearpod presentation. Okay. Another cool thing that I've seen people do, have students control the presentation. You got your iPad, you're walking around the room, you got a kid that's just needs a little bit of extra support, maybe just kind of keeping on track with what's going on in class. So have that student actually be the one that pushes the buttons and swipes the presentation to the next one. That's a cool way. Better yet, have your students make their own Nearpod presentations and present them to the class. I see a lot of people do slideshows where the kids are making Google Slides or a PowerPoint. But if you kind of switch that and now have them make a Nearpod and then have them again progress, students really like kind of being that, taking that role as being the teacher and directing the class. So that's a cool way to use Nearpod. Moving on to recap, this tool is technically still in what's called a beta version, meaning that there are still some things being worked on, but in its state currently, right now, that there are some really cool applications that we've already started seeing around the district, primarily as an assessment tool. And you can see here too, I've got a couple more standards. Again, student standards, teacher standards, so go ahead and read those standards to yourself. And you're going to see too, once we get into recap, what it has to offer for you as far as assessment. But again, offering that varied and different forms of assessment, both formative and summative. There's some really cool ways to use this, and I'll show you at the end of the tutorials of some other ideas that we've seen. But yeah, it's just a really great kind of change of pace, if you will. So this next clip is going to show you how to set up and use Recap.
Welcome to ETT Chat. This is EdTech teacher instructor Greg Kulowick. I want to thank you for joining us in this ETT Chat. This week we're going to explore the concept of having students create video reflections in class using a relatively new web tool called Recap. It recently came out of private beta testing and it's in a kind of open stage now, still in beta, but open to anyone who would like to explore the tool. So what I'm particularly excited about Recap for is because it provides another avenue for students to show what they think, demonstrate what they understand, and possibly give them another means to do so that could be an alternative to a written assignment, completing a traditional assignment. And what I also like about it is that at this point, students can respond from a Chromebook, a laptop, or an iPad. So it works across platforms and lots of different environments. So what we're going to do in this ETT chat is walk you through the entire process of using Recap, both from the teacher perspective within the teacher dashboard, and then jump over to the student perspective and respond to a video question. So with that being the introduction, I say we jump right into it. So where I've taken you now is the teacher admin panel, and the URL to navigate to this this login page is app.letsrecap.com, and on that main homepage you can log in either as the student or the teacher. So what I'm going to do now is go through the process of creating a new class, creating students in that class, and then getting a student enrolled in my class. There's so many features that I like about Recap. One of them is just the kind of really ease of use of the teacher interface. You can see here's all of my classes. I simply can create a new class. And what I'm going to call this one is ETT Chat. The login process for the student, I don't want the students to have a username or a password. All I want them to need to get is the class pin. So that's what I'm going to select. And then I'm just going to add a few students right now. So by adding the students ahead of time, when the students go to the student portal with the class pin number, all they have to do is tap on their name and they can start to reply. So I've created my class, added a few students, and now I'm going to add the class. So you can see here that my class has been added. Now, right from my teacher dashboard, if I tap on Get Class Pin, it will project it right in the middle of the screen, and I'm actually just going to grab that pin number right now. If I jump into my class, you can see here we have a home page and a student page. There's all of my students. None of them have responded to anything yet. Go back to my home page, and this is where I can add assignments, and I'll do that momentarily. Now you can have only one assignment open and running at any one time. The assignments can have multiple questions within them, but only one assignment per time open at any one time within Recap. So what I'm going to do now is jump over to the student portal and show you that login process. So give me one moment. Here we are on the student portal. Let me just back out here. All right, so I went to app.letsrecap.com/home, and you can see login as student or teacher. I'm going to jump in as the student. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this platform will work on Chromebooks because it's completely web-based, and all the student has to do is enable the front-facing camera within the Chrome browser when they use the Recap student portal. Or if you're on an iPad environment, students can get the Recap app for iPad, which allows them to respond directly from their iPad. So I'm going to tap on student right now. You can see I'm going to enter in a class pin number, paste that pin number in, and simply sign in. And here's all the students in the class, and I am Greg, so I'm going to log in as Greg. Now you can see no responses, me, that are archived yet as the student, and I have no outstanding assignments that are coming up or due. So back over to the teacher perspective. So when I jump over to the teacher portal, now I'm going to demonstrate the video creation assignment process. So I'm in my ETT chat class. I have one of my students logged in. Now I'm going to add an assignment. So I will call this ETT chat reflection 1. Question 1, what are your thoughts on Recap? And you can see I can add multiple questions. So question 2, how might you use Recap in your class? I can even add a question 3 if I want. Close out question 3. And notice this option down here to record video. That actually allows the teacher to record a front-facing video on their device and push that out as the question. This to me would be a fantastic option if you're in a foreign language class where a teacher could speak in the target language, post that question via video form, and students would have to reply back to the teacher, answering their question in the target language. I could see this also being used in a music class where a teacher might play a piece or sing a piece and have the students sing or play that piece back to them. So that's a really nice option right here. I'm going to assign this out. I can pick the maximum response time, and the way that the recap team is kind of describing this as high velocity video reflection. So we're trying to keep the response time to a minimum and not have this go on, just quick kind of recaps of their thinking for the day or the unit or the week. So I'll assign this to 60-second maximum per question. Make this due in 24 hours, and you can see the different time frames here. And I'm going to assign this to the whole class. A nice option is to say, you know what, I only have a handful of students that I want doing this video reflection. And you can handpick the particular students. Say, I wanted just Beth and Greg to reply to this question. I can turn that off and make it a whole class assignment. So I'm going to push this assignment out, and you can see it pops up on my teacher dashboard. We have one outstanding assignment. Here's reflection 1, due in about 24 hours, and there's no activity in this assignment right now. So now it's time to jump back over to the student perspective and show you what the student is going to experience when they have work that's been pushed out to them. All right, so student side, I'm simply going to refresh. And you can see right on the front page, I'm going to close this out, right on the front page, it's saying, hey, Greg, you have a new assignment. It's due in 23 hours. And this is what I talked about. Within any one classroom, there can only be one assignment running at one time. So I can simply respond to this. Now, one thing to keep in mind, at least at this point, I'm logged in, for example, to my history class as a student right now, and I can see my one assignment. If I wanted to reply to my math teacher or my science teacher or my language teacher, I would need to log out of this classroom and log back in with my other teacher's PIN number. So I don't know exactly what the plans are long-term for supporting like multiple classes per student login, but that's just something to keep in mind if it ends up being the case where multiple teachers on a team or at a grade level end up using Recap in your building. So I'm going to respond. And it jumps right to my question. What are your thoughts on Recap? Here's my respond button down on the bottom here. Tap respond. It initiates my front-facing camera, and I can hit record. Gives me a quick countdown, and now here we go. My thoughts on Recap. I think this tool is fantastic. A seamless video reflection tool. What I really like about it, well, there's tons of things I like about it. One thing I really like is that there's no downloading or uploading a video. The video is instantly shared from the student portal directly to the teacher portal. Stop that response. It's just going to process it, and then I'll get a check in the corner. I can re-record, or I think that looks good. How might you use this in your class? Respond. Record. I'll get my countdown again, 3, 2, 1. I can think of countless ways that I might use this. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide exactly how you're going to leverage this tool in your classroom. So here we go with the confirmation. It's doing a quick upload, and I can say that looks great. This is a built-in kind of student reflection. I'm going to say, yep, I got it, feel confident about my responses, and push that through to my teacher, and I am all done. Now, from the student side, all of the individual student responses will be logged and almost archived so they can go back and find their responses. What I'm going to show you now, I'm going to jump over to the teacher side of things. Let's get to my teacher screen. Here we are on the teacher screen. I'm just going to do a refresh of my teacher portal. And I'm on my homepage, ETT Reflection 1, due in about 24 hours. You can see that 1 of 4 students have responded, and that one student indicated that they got it. And as I scroll down, there's my student video that was just turned in. So I mentioned earlier how there's no videos to download or upload. Everything is kind of stored directly in the Recap platform. So if I jump into this student response,
Here we go. My thoughts on Recap. I think
I'll pause that. You can see it's a 15-second response. There's my question, and this allows me to fast forward directly to question 2, or I can play this one back.
this tool is fantastic. A seamless video reflection tool. What I really
There we go. So I'll jump to question 2. You can see that response there. Now I can rewind this, play it back again. So it just seamlessly transitions from the student dashboard directly to the teacher dashboard. Now, even though you can't download video, you can still share the video. So for example, if I had a really thoughtful student reflection and I was thinking, you know what, I want every other student in the class to see that. Because at this point, this is just back and forth between the one student and the classroom teacher. However, the teacher could grab the web link get that shareable link. And this web link right here could be copied and posted to a class website or a wiki or Google Classroom or whatever LMS is being used. This could also be sent home to the parents if you're going to be using this with younger students. So there's some flexibility here with sharing out videos when you're all done with collecting the work. So you can see here, there's the student response. If I had multiple students that submitted, you would see all of their videos tiled on the teacher dashboard right there. So that's about it for Recap. It is a ridiculously easy tool to get up and running with. The user interface is outstanding. There's really not much of a learning process that you need to work through. It's really just determining how can you leverage video responses from students, what's the frequency of use, what kind of questions might you develop. A few things to just keep in mind with the tool at this point with Recap, because it's kind of just coming out of beta. The teachers must run the tool from the teacher dashboard from a laptop or a desktop or a Chromebook. The students can respond at this point from a Chromebook with a front-facing camera, a laptop with a front-facing camera, or an iPad. There's an iOS iPad app. A little bit more flexibility with the iPad app at this point because students can record front-facing video, or for example, in like maybe a science or a math class, they can swap the camera to the external video camera and they can record a problem that they solved or a dry erase board or shoot video of an experiment that they've captured. But again, really helpful ease of use, no downloading to the camera roll, no uploading or sharing files. It instantly gets shared through the app on the iPad or strictly through the web portal. So I highly encourage you guys to check out Recap, really helpful video reflection tool. And thanks again for joining us for this week's edition of ETT Chat.
All right, so hopefully you got a good idea there of how to set up and use a recap lesson. A couple things again, if you are using recap, some cool things. It's a great change of pace for students. I know there's a lot of people are doing multiple choice or essay, and it can make for a long day if kids are writing paragraph after paragraph. Essays, it's a good way for them to just kind of change it up a little bit, activate different parts of their brain. Sometimes I know I've had students who are a lot better talking through an answer than writing an answer. They're able to get their thinking out better with their mouth than with their pencil, and so it gives those kids a chance to show their understanding. It's great for performing arts classes such as music. I know students I've seen where a teacher can or a student can record themselves maybe playing a recorder, and a teacher can observe their finger placement on the recorder, and the students can do that at their seat or at their house. A little bit more private setting. They're not lined up waiting for the teacher to be the only one assessing them. They can all just do it at once, and the teacher can, during their planning time, look back through the videos and assess students that way. So it's a really cool tool for those performing arts classes. ELL students, again, this is another fantastic tool for students who are learning English. It's a great way for them to practice their speaking and listening. I don't know if you saw, there's one feature where the teacher can record themselves asking the question, and then the students would respond by speaking the question, or speaking the answer, back to the teacher. And so I think it's a great opportunity for English language learners to not only hear directions, but then speak and practice those English skills that they are learning. Really cool tool. And really what it's doing kind of for all these purposes or all these examples here, it's removing the need for the teacher to be that one-on-one FaceTime assessor of the information. The kids can do it, the students can do it at their computer, wherever they want, any device, iPads, iPhones at home, whatever they want to use, and then the teacher isn't stuck with one kid and then kind of worried about what the rest of the class is doing. So it's a great tool for teachers as far as classroom management goes. And so then you add in some of these other benefits, and it's really just a pretty amazing tool with a lot of potential in our district. All right, the last tool I'm going to show you to help blend your classroom are what are called QR codes. You might have seen these around. I'm sure you have seen a lot of people using these already, and I wanted to show a few ways to use them and then how to go about making them. So there are a couple examples. I've seen teachers that have embedded these into worksheets. They've put them around the classroom with math problems, do a little walkabout with a solution station attached to it. They've used QR codes to add another layer to a visual aid or a poster that they've made. So not only is, do the kids make cool drawings on their posters, but they can post additional information via QR code. Kelly Lord over at KSC is using these to navigate kids to a little sign-up page to meet with her. And then again at Riverside here, they've got a little survey link around the hallway so kids can scan, take a little survey. And website navigation, solution station, survey links. It enhances infographics and classroom posters that are already made. And so there's a lot of cool things. Chromebooks now, there's an app that has been pushed to the Chromebooks that allow, it's just called QR Scanner, I believe, that allows students to scan using a Chromebook. This next clip is going to show you a way to build your own QR codes. So, to create QR codes, there's lots of sites out there. If you just do a Google search for QR code generators, you're going to find a lot of different options. The one that I like to use the best is right down here. It's qrstuff.com. Again, qrstuff.com. This page will open up. Now I've got a website, or it's a link that I've already copied. You can see right here the data type I'm using as a website URL, the website address. And so when I paste it, you can see that long website. So a Google Slides presentation actually. And it just makes a QR code over here in this corner for you to use. Now, one thing to mention, you can see that this one is pretty complex. There's lots of little black dots all over the place. Sometimes they might get too complex if you have a really big URL. This thing might get really complex, and the more complex, the harder it is to read. One thing that this qrstuff.com website offers, right down here, this encoding options button, right now it's set to static, and so it's just as is. But if you change it to this dynamic tab right here, watch what happens to the QR code. You can see that it changes it to a much simpler layout. And the advantage to this is that it just prints clearer. There's less chance that stuff gets blurry. It's also easier from long distances. If you're projecting it onto your whiteboard, for example, and kids are using iPads at their desks, this version might be a little bit easier for the camera to recognize than this more complex version. So then there's the QR code. Now to get this onto, to save this or put on your onto a document of some kind, I'm going to Control click, okay, and then I can save image as. Okay. Make sure you name that QR code, otherwise you have to get out your iPhone and scan it to see what it is. Okay. I'm going to save it. And then here it is right here, ready for me to use. I can drag and drop that onto a document to print and do whatever you want with it. Another way you can do it, if you've got another document open, you can just simply Control click again on this and then copy the image. And then if you open up another document, Command V for paste. Okay. And then there's that QR code, and so if you want to manipulate that and make it a little bit bigger, okay, you want to add some text to it, you can start setting it up that way. So if you want to make a solution station, if you want to have some math problems around the room, you can type out the math problems, have that answer as embedded into the QR code. You can do it that way too. So again, this is going back to the website. That is for navigating to a website. couple other things you can do. If you want to drop in a YouTube video, you can put the YouTube URL in right there. Some other things you can do, image files. If you want a picture to pop up with that QR code, or a PDF file, you can have that as well. So there's lots of different options you can do with it. You can even get fancy and change the color down here. If you want to add a logo of some kind, you can do that too. So lots of really cool things you can do with QR codes. All right, to wrap up this module, got a couple final reflecting thoughts here about blended learning tools. And I want you to go ahead and take a look at this tweet that I found in building this project. Now I know the title of this module is Blended Learning Tools, and so this kind of contradicts what we've been talking about. It's not about the tools, but rather the thinking process, the coaching process, the learning process. Take a minute and just think to yourself, where does this tweet land with you? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? And then how does this way of thinking kind of fit in with what we've just seen with these different tools? One thing for me, I've heard this sentence in several different ways. I'll use this example that a teacher says, kids need to know how to use Excel because they get asked that in a job interview, or they need to know how to use Microsoft Word because that's what everyone else uses. And you kind of take a step back and think, is it just the tool that they need to use, or is it more of the process of using a spreadsheet and manipulating data, or is it word processing? If it's just word processing, well, there's dozens of different tools that can word process, and there's several tools that can help with making spreadsheets and working with data. And so the problem though is that if you've seen that you use one version of Microsoft Word and then it updates and it looks different, and then you're kind of stuck using and having to go back to this old technology piece that's outdated, and then you're kind of fall behind with what's happening. And so for me at least, when I say it's not about the tool, it's the process. If you get stuck with just one tool, that tool becomes obsolete, especially in technology. You got to keep up and moving, and just work on the process. Come along with that, don't get stuck in, when you're using these tools, Nearpod, Recap, QR codes, don't get stuck in this, well, I have to use a QR code for this process. That's the only thing I can use. Maybe a new tool shows up, and try that, that new tool to support that process of, website navigation. Is there another tool that can support that besides a QR code? Maybe the QR code can now be used in a different way. Try to use that old tool in a new way. Especially in technology, there isn't any kind of cure-all tool, and so if you kind of get stuck with this is the one way to do it, then it's going to change in a short time, and you're going to have a hard time adjusting. But if you're thinking more about the process of what you're trying to accomplish and not the end goal and not the tool to get there, but again, that process of assessment, or that process of direct instruction in a digital format, you're at an advantage when something changes and something new comes along in technology. You're better able to adapt to that change. All right, thanks for watching this blended learning tools tutorial. Next steps to finish this module, you're going to use these tools and design out some lessons that are using Nearpod, Recap, QR codes, and part of that process too would involve myself or Holly Miller kind of sitting with you and kind of working through that process alongside you, and offering some feedback and some tips and just some just general support in that lesson design process. And then obviously we would love for you to teach those lessons and to complete this module. Keep an eye out for more modules. We are making more and more as we go here. And also let us know too if there is something specific, another tool or app or kind of a technique in teaching that you would like to see more of, and hopefully we could accommodate you. Thanks.